Hello, everyone. I'm a few minutes late. Well, 2 minutes. That's not too bad. Could have been worse. And my light is in an odd place. It's Wednesday, March 18th. The days are flying by. I hope everyone started off today with a great big smile and happiness in their heart. Because if we don't start off there, the day's only going to get worse. When you wake up in the morning, you look at the sky and you say, today is the day. It's going to be a good day. And if you do that every single day, what could go wrong? So, welcome and thanks for joining this live stream. This topic is very hard for most people to handle on their own. This space is special. And when I talk about topic, I'm talking about estrangement, alienation, being separated from the people that we thought we would love and have in our lives till the day we die. There's no judgments, there's no negativity, and this is a safe place. Today we're talking about how social media influences estrangement. This is such an important conversation because social media doesn't just reflect relationships anymore. It shapes them. We can strain them, distort them, amplify misunderstandings, and sometimes even replace real conversation, communication with performance, silence, or public messaging. For many estranged parents as the family members, social media becomes one of the only visible windows into someone else's life. How many of you have friends out there that you knew years ago, have them on your friends list, but you don't know anything about them today? Maybe back then you did, but not today. I remember when Facebook became the first thing, and everybody was kind of in a competition to see how many people, how many friends they could find. And our numbers were huge. And then we realized that we didn't need that many. Social media becomes one of the only visible windows into their life. And the only reason you really need visibility at someone else's life is if you're looking for something for a moment. But it can also deepen pain, fuel comparison, create assumptions, and keep emotional wounds open for longer than they might otherwise stay open. So today we're going to look at both sides, how social media can increase distance and confusion, and how it can also support healing and connection when used differently. And when I talk about social media, I'm not just talking about I don't want this just to be about the Facebooks of the world, the Twitters of the world, or X's, or the Instagram, Snapchats. I'm talking about the lack of verbal communication that we have in today's society that has replaced it with cell phones, computers, laptops, gaming systems. So that's the goal of this live stream. So if this topic hits home close to you, you're not alone. The generation that we are parents of, and I'm not even sure I want to wonder what's going to happen with the next generation because I've seen and feel what's happened with this one. If you're here for the first time and this resonates with you, don't forget to click subscribe. It's free. And if you want to be notified about upcoming live streams, turn on the notifications. You can turn them off at any time. I do live streams every single day. That may change in the future, but you'll be notified. If you're returning, thank you for coming back. I appreciate you so much. The community continues to grow, and it's because people feel seen here. Yesterday, we had a special guest, Sunday, and oh, aside from her voice, I love the Britain accent. My mom had a Britain accent, and it just takes me back. But she had such good advice for us. So if you haven't watched that episode, go back and watch it. I'm not an expert. That's why I have people like Sunday, like Doormat Mom. I invite them to come and join the show. And if you know of somebody who is an expert in this field, please have them reach out to me because I'd love to have them on the show. I'd love to be able for them to share what they've learned. And you know what? Aside from that, if you're a mom, if you're a dad, and you've gone through this or you're going through this, and you want to be able to talk in an open space with people who care, with people who understand, you're invited as well. So I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not a therapist. I just share what I've lived. Maybe sometimes too much. And I'll try and keep that in mind. Because this isn't about me. This is using what I've learned, what I've gone through to try and help others be able to feel comfortable in talking about what they've gone through, what they're living through, and how they feel. What many of us experience is rarely talked about openly. And we need to get it out. We need to talk about it. We need to raise the awareness of this. If you have questions or comments, put them in the comment field. I'll get them here. And then I'll respond to them as I can. And remember, as we go through this episode, it often shows moments, not truth. It shows reactions, not history. It shows curated snapshots, not the full emotional story underneath families who are no longer speaking. So when estrangement happens, hold on, let me, I breathe. Everybody breathe. You take a deep breath in, hold it, and release it. That's called grounding. And that brings your focus from everywhere else but where it needs to be, which is your frontal temporal. This part. Frontal temporal. There's another third word. Of course, I forget. When estrangement happens, there's often silence, real silence. No calls, no visits, no updates. And then social media fills that silence sometimes because not all of us still have access to our children through social media. You may not hear from them directly, but you could see their life unfolding in real time. Birthdays celebrated without you, holidays spelt elsewhere, photos with people you've never met. And what social media does is it removes context. You see outcomes, not conversations. You see reactions, not history. You see edited moments, not the emotional truth. I can recall having a Christmas dinner at my house where it was my entire family, and it was almost like World War II broke out. But at the end of the night, we all got together and posed for a picture. Happy family! And that got posted on Facebook. That doesn't describe the situation. That doesn't tell anybody that these 50 people weren't talking to each other 2 minutes ago. Creates a very dangerous emotional environment. Let's talk about how. One, it creates assumptions. One photo can tell 1,000 false stories, equally to telling 1,000 truth stories. You see a smile and assume happiness. You see silence and assume rejection. You see distance and assume intention. But most of the time, you're guessing. And guessing is where pain grows. It encourages performance over communication. Social media allows people to communicate without communicating. Instead of calling the post, they post. Instead of explaining, they hint. Instead of resolving, they perform. Sometimes messages are indirect. Sometimes they are defensive. Sometimes they're meant for you without naming you. And that deepens division instead of solving anything. And I could go back through that same list and say, instead of calling, they post. But it's positive. Instead of explaining, they hint. I know what I'm getting Mom for Christmas, right? There's good and there's bad to this. However, it does take away the communication part, right? Messages are being indirect. Well, you ask questions. There is a way, and you know what? Based on the way the future is going, this is a part of our life. We're going to have to figure out how to deal with it and how to live with it. And that's being able to communicate properly over a phone or a computer or in a post. It makes a huge difference. There was a TV show I was watching last night, and everybody was sitting at the kitchen table. And Mom goes like this. Everybody drops their phones. Every single one of them were on their phone. I always had a rule in my house, no cell phones at the table. Didn't always work that way, but when I was caught, the phone was told to be put away. It deepens division instead of solving anything. Comparison becomes constant. You begin asking questions. Why them and not me? What did I do wrong? Why do they seem happier without me? Comparison becomes an emotional torture. And most of the time, it's based on incomplete information. It freezes people in their positions. Before social media, time created distance from conflict. You had time to hang up the phone and focus on your thoughts. Whereas now you just respond in a text immediately. How many actually wait or write the text and then rewrite the text and then rewrite the text and try and tone it down a little bit? Or is your first reaction the one you really shouldn't send? Old arguments, old posts, old screenshots. Oh, hiccups. Old opinions. How many on your phones have years and years worth of data that you don't need? Nothing fades naturally anymore. The cloud is endless. As we need more space, we buy more space. We don't delete. And healing often requires emotional space, not constant reminders. I can recall the comparison note is one of my sons had a close friend, one that he'd been through school with from at least grade 1 up. And mom and dad, 3 sons, same as me. And they got divorced, we got divorced, not at the same time, but she started a new family. And when she took pictures of her family, I always felt so envious because they look so happy. That doesn't mean they were. But when my family, if I ever tried to get pictures taken of them, there was always one with their tongue stuck out, their fingers in the air. They didn't want to take good pictures for memories. And healing often requires emotional space, not constant reminders. So on my phone, I actually went through and I deleted. A lot. Didn't delete pictures, but they're all safely tucked away. I did delete emails to and from. I deleted text messages to and from, all of them on all platforms, WhatsApp, iMessage, text message, all of them. They're all gone. I even deleted their contact information. If this conversation feels familiar to you, take a second, like the stream, subscribe, and drop a comment. Share it with somebody who you might think would benefit from this. Because every day you learn somebody else is going through the same thing. And like you, they're not talking about it. Even just say, I really hope someone else feels less alone. Before I get into the psychological impact of this, I want to show you something because before I got onto this, and let's add this image to the screen. And so my rule in my house was when I could no longer contact you and knew the school was looking after you. So grade 8, when you moved from grade 8 to high school, you got a cell phone. That was one rule. My sons had gaming systems because my husband and I had a gaming system. So they were indoctrinated into it right away. They didn't get to use it very often because my husband and I used it probably more than they did. But so I asked ChatGPT to rank in ages, so from 3 to 16, and did they have a console? Did they have a handheld? Did they have a phone? Or did they have a computer and laptop? And you can see here, starting at the age of 5, you got rare, mostly monitored for both handheld games and gaming consoles. At 6, we've got early adopters, monitored, same thing for handheld. Age 7, growing, monitored, common, monitored. 8, common, first ownership, monitored, very common, monitored. And now we get into mobile phones, rare but monitored. 9, 9 years old, very common but monitored, very common but monitored, growing, monitored. And now we get into laptops, rare personal device but monitored. 10, very common, monitored. Gaming system, very common, monitored. Mobile phone, rapid growth age, mixed monitoring. So here's where we see the first time where parents aren't monitoring or partially monitoring what's happening on a phone, and then on a laptop, growing and monitored. Then we get at the age of 11, standard. So most 11-year-olds have a gaming console, but they're monitored. Most of them have a handheld, but they're monitored. Most of them are very common and still mixed monitoring. So There's more that have mobile phones at the age of 11, but they're still somewhat monitored. More common and mixed monitoring. Then we have age 12, standard mixed monitoring for both handheld and console games. And then majority ownership, mixed monitoring. So by the age of 12, the majority of people have cell phones. Computers and laptop, common, mixed monitoring. So when it comes to the games that they're playing, we're somewhat paying attention to what they're playing. So each game has an age limit on it, and it ranks from child to X-rated. And I know my son liked Call of Duty, and he learned names of guns that I'd never heard of. But I'm not a gun enthusiast either, and I'm Canadian, so there's just not there's not a need for us to know that kind of stuff. But he knew. He also I will give the credit in something. He knew the tall statue, and I think it's in Rio de Janeiro, of the white statue of the woman, and I cannot think of the name. So he did learn geography and things like that. So there's benefits along with negatives in terms of this. So at the age of 13, standard mixed monitoring on a handheld. Most 13-year-olds have a phone and they're not monitored, and most have a laptop, or it's common to have a Mac or a laptop, and it's mixed monitoring. At 14, standard mixed monitoring. At 15, standard mixed monitoring. So we're still paying attention to the games that they're playing, but we're not paying attention to their phones, mostly, but unmonitored. Computer and laptop, often independent use. 15, standard mixed monitoring. 15 years old, we're still monitoring the games they're playing. Standard mixed monitoring, same thing, but they're mobile phones, mostly unmonitored. Laptop, mostly unmonitored. Standard mixed monitoring, and mostly unmonitored, So when you look at that graph, you're starting at the age of 12, right? So at the age of 12, think about being 12 years old. And you pretty much have free reign to play any game that you want, whether it's X-rated or not X-rated, whether it's child, medium, adult. You can do anything on your phone. Go to any website, talk to any person. Same with your computer or your laptop. So if this doesn't have anything to do with the shaping of the minds of our children, so the most important part of our child's minds is up until the age of 6. That's where they absorb the most information. So everything around them, family dynamics, interaction, communication, all the good stuff is when they learn there. But then we get to the age of 12, where now they're exploring on their own to figure out what they like versus what they've been taught. Now, I'm not blaming games. I would never, ever blame games, because you know what? I was one of those parents. I had 2 children playing hockey and soccer. And in order to keep my son, the youngest, from running all over the place and not being able to watch the games, he had a game system and he played it all the time. And you know what? I regret that to this day. I can't change it. I can apologize for it, but he loves his gaming. He still does it. He's 27 years old. But that's my fault. I did that. I did that. And I have to live with that. That his game will always be more important than anything else. So the psychological impact. Let's talk about what that does emotionally. Hypervigilance. You start checking constantly, looking for clues, looking for meaning, looking for signs. What parent hasn't looked at their child's things to see what they're up to and invaded their privacy? And what age do they get privacy? Right? Like, in order to keep them safe, right? Trafficking is a huge thing in this world, especially right now. We have to keep our children safe. And apparently, it doesn't matter how old they are. So, monitoring their behaviors, their communications, who they're talking to, what they're talking about, that is up to us as parents. And although the kids may not like it, it's a must do. Or the alternative, which they wouldn't like either, is they don't have access to those features, the phones and the gaming systems. It keeps our nervous system activated. Emotional re-injury. Every post can feel personal, even when it isn't. So if my son, my daughter, my granddaughter post something on Facebook and it isn't meant to be for me, doesn't say, dear so and so, I could take it to mean that it's for me because I don't know any better. So even when it isn't. And you relive the loss over and over and over again. Isolation. You may stop posting, sharing what you're doing. You stop it. You just don't do it. You pull back, and suddenly your world becomes smaller. And you know what? Social media is, the doors are just opening. There are so many out there that I can't even count. I don't even go on. If anything, it's business related. It's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, or X. Social media helps people find support groups. Business. Here I am. Oh, YouTube would be considered a social media. I do a lot of YouTube because I watch a lot of videos. But I watch good videos, informative videos. I learn how to take apart machinery. I learn how to make furniture. I learn how to unjam my printer or fix my iMac. So there are benefits to the future that we have in front of us, but there are negatives, and we need to be aware of those negatives. Social media does help normalize estrangement, especially if you find a support group and people who are just like you. It allows you to share stories in private, and it reduces the shame. Although, touch on that one a little bit more, because there's not a single person out there that should feel shame for being estranged. It doesn't matter if you caused it or they caused it. If it's an abusive situation, that's not a shame reason. That's a different causal effect. But if your children aren't talking to you or you're not talking to your children, shame is not something you should be looking at, because there is nothing to be ashamed about not knowing how to communicate properly. Because the one things that our schools don't teach us is how to communicate, how to have the hard conversations. And then you add in social media where it's LOL, BRB, LMAO, FM, whatever, all these different acronyms. That's not communication. That throws everything in the Webster's dictionary out the window. Many people first realize they're not alone through social media. That matters. There are healthier ways to navigate it. If social media is a part of your life during estrangement, limit the exposure. Mute instead of block if needed. Avoid reacting emotionally. And step away when triggered. Most importantly, protect your peace more than your curiosity. Yeah, we said curiosity killed the cat. Reflection. Ask yourself, is what I'm seeing helping me heal? That's, I think, a 50-50 split, because there's some days where I personally think I'm doing okay, only to find out that I'm not. So it's keeping me stuck, or is it helping me heal, but also knocking me back 2 steps? Sometimes the most powerful step forward is choosing not to look. Now, the interesting thing about Facebook, which would be probably my primary one, and I don't scroll through pages, 10 posts. It's probably as far down as I go. And I would say that of those 10 posts, 4, if I'm lucky, will be somebody that I'm connected to in a group or on a page, and they're posting in general to everybody, not to me. The rest of it is ads. There is so much to learn in this world in terms of social media and now AI, artificial intelligence, because things are growing at such a rapid pace. And if you don't know or understand any of it, you're going to be lost. And the older generation, I have a funny story that I can end this off with. The older generation, if they're technical, if they worked on a computer during their days while they worked, they might be able to work their way around getting on social media. If they didn't, and what I find is my brother-in-law is a carpenter. A friend of mine is a carpenter. Another friend of mine is a carpet layer. They still have the old flip phones. So there's no ability to take pictures or watch YouTube or scroll on Facebook. And they don't want to. They're also the same people that don't want to use an online banking app. They'll go into the bank rather than use their phone because that's what they're used to. But then there's people out there that have been in the tech world or in an office setting where smartphones are like our life. They're never far from our hands. Like if my cell phone were to ring right now, I would hear it. If it were to buzz, I'd know it's buzzing. You go to a dinner, Christmas dinner. Let's use that as an example. And everybody's sitting around the table. And let's say there's 25 people there, and 5 of them are seniors. The rest are adults and young adults. And every single one of them has either got their phone sitting beside their plate on the table, sitting in their lap, or it's in their hand. Because God forbid we missed that one message that could happen during that dinner. Or possibly the brother across the table is messaging the brother across on the other side saying, "When are we going home?" Mm-hmm. That happens. But the funny story that I want to tell you about, it happened back in 2003 or 4. It's before my mother passed. And it's funny, and it still is applicable today. At the time, um, she had forgotten we were using MSN to communicate with people. So she used MSN, and she had 4 or 5 friends on there that she talked to on a regular basis. And she messaged me and she said, "I can't remember my password." Or she called me, sorry. She didn't message me. "I can't remember my password." And I said, "Okay, well, any ideas? Have you tried anything? Have you tried forgot password?" Walked her through the basic steps. Yep. I can't find it. All right, fine. What I'll do is I will set you up a new messenger profile. So I go in on her computer because I had access to her computer from my house. And I created a new login and a new password. And I told her, and I said, "Your password is going to be your phone number so that you'll always remember it. Don't change your phone number." She said, "Okay." So I set it up. Sorry, it's windy here. Set it up, and I got off her computer, logged out, and I said, "Okay, I want you to log in while I'm on the phone." So she put in her name, and she clicked down to the password, and she went to log in with her password. And so she started typing her phone number. She says, "It's not working." I said, "What do you mean it's not working?" She says, "My phone number's not coming up." And I said, "Okay, is the nums lock key turned off or on your keyboard? Are you using those keys on the right hand side?" "No, it's I've tried it both ways. It's working." "What about the numbers across the top?" "No, nothing's coming up." And I'm like, "Have you had this problem before? Can you go to a Word document, type some numbers?" "Yeah, that works." "Okay, Mom, tell me exactly what you're doing." So she walked me through it. She typed in her name, spelt it out for me. Okay, tab down to the user or the password, and she presses the first number of her phone number. I said, "Okay, what do you see?" She says, "There's a star there." And I just burst out laughing because the star is the encrypted phone number. But I didn't think about that, and she didn't know about that. That would be one of my very last memories with my mother. So, you know what? As a mother, who I have thousands and countless stories, with my mother to the day that she died. I have zero regrets. Zero, absolutely no regrets on the life that her and I shared. That I can only hope that the day that I pass, that my children will feel the same. And for those of you who are out there, you may be sick, you may not be well, you may be just estranged and sad. There are some things that we cannot control. We have them until they're 18 years old. It is our choice to get pregnant, to give birth, to stay their parent until they are 18 years old. And then after 18 years old, we don't have any, zero control as to what they do, who they see, what they get into. We can offer advice. They don't have to take it. But I would hope that any child out there that doesn't have a relationship with their mother or their father would think twice about it. And you know what? Maybe look them up on social media and send them a message letting them know that you do still think of them as mom and dad, because you only ever get one. On that note, thank you for being here today, for being part of a space where estrangement can be talked about honestly, without shame and without judgment. Today's conversation spoke to you, it resonated, any of it triggered part of you, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share it with somebody who you think could use it. Follow us on Facebook. I have a page here that has, I have a short URL here, but ultimately if you search in Facebook what estrangement feels like, you'll find the page. Just look for this logo. I live stream every single day until I change that, from 11 o'clock Central Time, because I'm in Central Time, and 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Of course, that just recently changed as well. Tomorrow we'll continue this conversation by looking deeper at estrangement itself, how it develops over time through patterns, communication breakdowns, emotional wounds, and stories people tell themselves and others. Don't forget, you're not alone. There are lots of us out there. And I'll see you next time. So have a great Wednesday. Take care.